Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below before you go. Come and join our family. As you guys can tell from the title of this video, and you guys can see, we had our last baby. He is officially here, and I'm going to be doing a birth story. I didn't really film a lot of his birth like I did with Cohen's, which I'm really sad about, especially because he is our last baby. I wanted it for memories even, but it all just happened so flipping quick. I didn't even know if Dante was going to get there in time. We'll get to that, but it literally happened so fast. I am just gonna jump right into it. I do think it's important for me to start at the beginning. I haven't talked about this on YouTube here yet, so I'm just gonna kind of talk about it now. I did talk about it on my Instagram when it happened, but at 36 weeks, I went into preterm labor. I was having contractions. I went to the hospital. I was dilating. I think I dilated to 4 centimeters. I think she said between 3 and 4. And then they kept me overnight. They monitored me, and I fell asleep around midnight, I think it was, and then by the morning my contractions had stopped. I was so thankful because we definitely did not want to have a preemie. I've got some birth trauma with the stillbirth and then with Cohen going to the NICU, and everything about it scared the crap out of me, especially because the OBGYN at the hospital had told me before I had a prolapsed pelvis, which I have since found out that I don't have, apparently. Like, so I went to the ER, if you guys didn't know the story. I went to the ER, they told me I had a prolapsed pelvis, and then I would need surgery, and then I brought it up to my OBGYN at my next appointment. He checked my pelvis, checked my cervix, and told me that I did not have a pelvis prolapse. It was just the baby's head being really low. Now that I'm not pregnant, I think once I'm healed in the next handful of months or so, I'm gonna go get a third opinion just to be 100% sure, now like when I'm not pregnant, to see if it was the baby's head or to see if I really do have a problem and need surgery. So that we're still a little unclear on, but I'm going with I don't have a prolapsed pelvis because he was pretty sure that I didn't. But after getting that news and then going into preterm labor, I was really freaking out about the entire situation. A lot of birth trauma. He got a little cranky, but they gave me an ultrasound while I was staying there because of my history with the stillbirth, and they just wanted to make sure everything was okay. He was said it was measuring around 37 weeks, like on the ultrasound, at 36 weeks and 2 days, and that if he was born that day, his estimated weight would be about 6 pounds and 13 ounces. I ended up seeing the OB a couple hours later, and he said that he looked just fine, and because my contractions had stopped, they were going to send me home, even though I was only 4 centimeters. Or even though I was 4 centimeters, which I thought they have to keep you, but I was just so grateful to be able to go home because there is nothing more miserable than sitting in a hospital room for no reason. Like, he was not coming. But I am glad that they kept me just in case it was preterm labor. Right when we got home, we immediately panicked and put everything together. Like, if you guys had watched I think the last video was literally called "We Are So Unprepared for This Baby" or something like that. So when we got home, I literally set up the entire baby station on our dresser so we could change him in the middle of the night. I set up his bassinet. I set up a swing downstairs. I deep cleaned the entire house. And he just stayed put. He was not moving. He was comfortable in there. Right? Him just being noisy. But he was not moving. We were convinced he was going to be born a couple days after that while I was still preterm. But we were praying that I made it to at least 37 weeks. Because I didn't want to do any preterm labor. I did not want to have a preterm baby. Fast forward to 37 weeks and 4 days. I was having contractions. I think they started around 4 p.m. And then Dante came home around like 5 or so, I think. I don't know. Anyways, we went for a drive to see if the contractions would stop, because they did. Like, I was having contractions on and off from when I went in preterm labor, but nothing that was like consistent. So I wanted to see if these contractions were going to be consistent or not, just because I didn't want Dante to have to like take time off work or like go to the hospital again for no reason if it wasn't labor, because I literally had contractions for like hours, dilated to a 4, and then literally went home the next day. And as much as we were grateful, it kind of made me question like if it was real labor or not. So we went for a drive, the contractions kind of stopped, I drank some water, the whole 9 yards, and we went home, and I pretty much went to bed at that point. I was pretty much just exhausted. My pelvic bone hurt so bad near the end of my pregnancy. I could barely stand. Like, that's why there wasn't any videos or any vlogs or anything like that, because I literally could not stand to film. The kids, like the other boys, pretty much just watched movies for the last couple weeks of my pregnancies, and like colored and like cuddled me, because I literally couldn't stand. I felt so bad. I couldn't play with them like the way I used to be able to before. The last like, oh, bless you, before the last like 2 months of my pregnancy where it really started to hurt. The last 2 weeks were really bad. Oh, sorry about this. I'm sorry, was that loud? Anyways, I was absolutely exhausted, so I went to sleep. I actually fell asleep on the couch because we were watching a show. I fell asleep on the couch, and at 7 a.m. I woke up to like roll over. But if you've ever been pregnant, you know that sometimes like you're fully awake when you roll over because you have to put all of your weight into it. And at 7:30 or so, I started having really bad cramps, and I was like, okay, you know, like maybe this is it, maybe this isn't it. Like, I literally just had these yesterday and they left. Don't you think? Dante had to work at 9, and he was like, do I call in or like do I go? Like, what's going on? Should I go in or should I not? I ultimately decided that he should go in, just for the fact that I still wasn't sure if they were going to be consistent contractions or if they were going to stop. Needless to say, by 10 o'clock I was calling him home. I did manage to get a couple clips on my phone, so I will include those. Dante called me to let me know he was coming home from work as well, but I did go into preterm labor at 36 weeks. I don't think I've mentioned that here. I haven't posted anything, but I went into preterm labor at 36 weeks. I dilated from a 2 to a 3 to a 4, something like that. I don't remember. Anyways, it was something like that. And I haven't gone into natural labor in literally like 7 years because I get induced with the boys. So not only is my anxiety really high right now, I don't remember when you're supposed to go in. I know that sounds so stupid, but the last 2 were inductions, but this hurts really bad, like really bad. So, and induction labors hurt more than regular labor. I've done both, and in my experience, they hurt more. I went into the hospital with Levi. I think I was like 7 centimeters dilated, and it was like this painful, so I'm a little nervous just because I have anxiety around natural birth, which is why we do the induction as well. It is really hot in here. Oh my gosh, hold on. Cohen's crying because it's close to his nap time, but I want to put him down for a nap because Dante has to drive me to the hospital. So I'm gonna get him a snack in a second, but I think at this point we're just gonna go to the hospital. We're gonna see, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's where we're at. We're gonna wait for Dante and we're gonna go to the hospital. This is not how I planned this going. I have an induction date. Stress. He is so low right now. In so much pain. Maybe the triage. Yeah. So I get to the hospital at 12. They triaged me. They, you know, you sit there, you wait, whatever else. They came around, they checked me. They said I was still between 3 and 4 centimeters. And they wanted me to walk around and see if I progressed any, because on the monitors it showed that I was having contractions and stuff as well. So I walked around the hospital for an hour, but like I said, my pelvic bone was super sore, like super sore. So after an hour I had no choice but to literally go sit back down because I was this close to crying in pain from how badly it hurt. I waited for the OB to come back, and when she came back after her 2 hours, she checked me and I was a 4. She said I was a full 4 instead of like a 4.5. So she said I was progressing. They were just gonna go ahead and admit me. I was 37 weeks, 5 days, and then they were gonna break my water, and then hopefully everything just sped up a little bit, because she said that it seemed like my labor had kind of like stalled. So I was in labor, but it was just like very slow progressing, stall kind of deal. A few hours later, they had me walk around the hospital to see if I was gonna like progress or anything like that. And I did. So they're gonna keep me. I've got my IV and everything in. It is 3:52. We are waiting for Dante because he needs his dad to come to watch the kids. But right now we are just relaxing-ish in between contractions. But it is baby day. It is the 10th. We were supposed to have the baby on the 14th. And he said, just kidding, I'm coming early. So it's baby day. They officially broke my water and they checked me again and they said it was 5 centimeters. So that's good. It's only 4:16, so it happened pretty quickly. So we're still waiting for Dante's dad. And at this point, I'm just like hoping he gets here on time. I'm having a contraction. They came in, they broke my water, and that's when things got really crazy and started happening really fast. We had my best friend come over and sit with the kids because I didn't know if Dante was gonna make it, because with oxytocin you go so much faster, but from already going from a 4 to a 5 in like an hour, like less than an hour time span, I was like already starting to freak out. And at this point I'm already super anxious because I haven't given natural birth aside from Levi, which ended up being a 40-week stillbirth. So there was a lot of trauma in that. And at this point, like, I'm just freaking out inside. Mentally, I'm stressed. I mean, they have like the baby on the monitor, and like the nurse that we had was amazing. Like, she kept coming in and like checking the heartbeat and like all that kind of stuff. But I was just, it's a trauma thing. And I was not having a good time. So I just needed Dante to get there. So his dad was on the way. My best friend went over to sit with the boys. Bless her soul, she was in a grocery store, so she came over with all of her kids and her husband so that she could sit with our kids while Dante got to the hospital. Literally an angel. Lily, I love the absolute crap out of you. I think at this point it's like 5 or so, and I've asked for the epidural. I did have the epidural with the other 2 kids. They said that the anesthesiologist, I think it's called, was coming up to the floor already. So if I wanted it, now would be a good time to get it. So I did end up getting it. The contractions were not nearly as bad as induction contractions are. They definitely weren't comfortable, but people describe like their contractions as like tightening in their stomach. I didn't have that. I just had a lot of pressure. Like, it just felt like a ton of pressure on my pelvic bone area. I didn't really feel my stomach tightening. Like, I knew I was having a contraction when I felt a bunch of pressure. I remember her asking me questions like, oh, like, you know, do like the tightenings feel like they're getting closer together? Do they feel like they're getting, you know, more intense? And I was like, no, like the pressure is getting more intense. The pressure is happening more often. And I don't think she was really like, she's like, oh, okay, you know, like that happens. And I was like, no, like this is like the contraction. Like, I'm not, like my stomach's not getting tight. And she said that the epidural is not working as much as they would like it to be. So essentially my epidural didn't fail. She said that I was just dilating too quickly. She asked if I wanted to call the OB because I was complaining about the pressure feeling, and she ended up checking me. I went from a 5 to a 7 to 8 in like 45 minutes. So because I was dilating so quickly, the epidural didn't have a chance to keep up, I guess. Like, that's how she explained it to me. So essentially I didn't even have an epidural, but I had the pain of an epidural, which sucks so bad. And then within 30 minutes or so, I was literally telling her, I was like, no, like there's so much pressure. And she goes, well, I just checked you, so I don't really want to check you. But if you're telling me that I have to like, if you're telling me that it feels like you have to push, or like that you want me to, I will. And I was like, no, like, yes, check me. It hurts. Like, I think we're there. I think we're good. And so she checked me and she's like, yeah, you know, you definitely feel like a 10. She had me do like my practice pushes, and then I think after like 2 practice pushes or something like that, she called the OB. This was a very different experience for me because all of my other epidurals worked except for Levi's. This was very, very different. It was a lot harder than the other kids were. Like, even Dante would sit there and tell you, like, with the other kids I had like flying colors, like they just came out kind of deal. This was not that case. He was born in 3 pushes, where I think it was 3, where Cohen was born in like literally a minute. You can hear them on camera in his birth video. like talking about it in the background because of how fast Cohen was born. That's literally how he ended up in the NICU. Jackson was born in like 2 pushes in like 5 minutes or something like that, and then he was a little bit longer. I think he was 3 to 4 pushes, and I think he was also around 5 minutes, but it was very different because I could feel everything. So it was definitely not the worst experience I've ever had in my life, but I definitely don't know if I would want to do that again. Like I don't think I would want to do it without an epidural. But he was born on July 10th at 6:53, I believe. I want to say 6:53. Everything was such a blur. I was in so much pain compared to my other kids. She had to give me 2 stitches, and she numbed me because of how much pain I was in, which I've also never had them do. I also had epidurals with Cohen, and he's the only other kid I needed stitches with. So I don't know if that changed everything, but like literally like to the touch, everything was super, super sore. And I was just in so much disbelief. I still had like all of the anxiety. And then now that he is born, I had all of the anxiety from like the NICU. My camera was gonna die, but now that he was born, I had all of the anxiety from when Cohen went to the NICU. I was worried about him having to go to the NICU. And just like, they were like looking at him, and I was like, is he okay? Like, is he breathing okay? Like, he's okay though, right? And like even Dante was like, is, you know, you said he's fine, but like, is he okay? His jaundice test, which I guess like he's higher risk for it because the other 2 kids had jaundice. I didn't know that was a thing, but he passed his jaundice test. And then because he had jaundice, or sorry, because the other boys had jaundice and he was higher risk, they wanted us to go back in like 2 days, a day or so, to have another test done. Sorry, mom brain. Anyways, they wanted us to go back to have another test done, but he is here. He is perfect. He passed that test too, by the way. Weighed 7 pounds and 8 ounces, which is our biggest baby. Levi was the closest to that, which was 7 pounds 2 ounces. So he was definitely a little chunk-a-monk, which you wouldn't think so because he is literally so tiny. We came home from the hospital and Cohen looks massive, but that's pretty much our birth story. We're gonna be back to filming regularly now that I'm not pregnant and like feel like I'm physically dying. But yeah, he's here and life has never felt better. Oh, buddy. I hope you feel the same way. He's just making faces at me. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in our next daily vlog. Bye guys.